The icy moon of Europa was silent, its frozen surface reflecting the faint light of Jupiter hanging in the black sky. In a small research station buried deep beneath the ice, Alex Carter sat alone at a cluttered desk. The room was dimly lit by the glow of monitors and blinking control panels. Outside, the cold was unbearable, temperatures so low that even the strongest materials could crack under the strain. But inside, the hum of machinery provided a comforting sense of safety. Alex sighed, rubbing tired eyes. It had been another long day of analyzing data, running tests, and trying to make sense of the strange energy signals coming from the ocean hidden below the ice. The mission had started with excitement, but months of isolation and repetitive tasks had worn down everyone on the team. Even Alex, who usually found comfort in routine, felt a growing restlessness. As Alex reached for a cup of lukewarm coffee, there was a sudden noise, a sharp knock at the airlock door. Startled, Alex froze. No one was supposed to come here at this hour. The crew was asleep, or at least they should have been. Who could it be? Or what? Slowly standing up, Alex grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the entrance. The knocking came again, louder this time, more insistent. Through the thick glass window of the airlock, Alex saw a shadowy figure standing outside. The person, or thing, was wrapped in layers of frost-covered fabric, their face obscured by the glare of the station's lights. "Who's there?" Alex called out, keeping a cautious distance. There was no response, only the sound of breathing, heavy and labored. Whoever it was, they were clearly struggling. Against better judgment, Alex activated the airlock sequence, allowing the stranger inside. The figure stumbled into the warm interior, shaking violently from the cold. As the frost melted away, Alex got a closer look. It was a woman, but not human. Her skin shimmered like polished silver, and her eyes glowed softly, a pale blue that seemed almost otherworldly. She wore tattered robes, torn and stiff from the freezing temperatures outside. Despite her alien appearance, there was something deeply human about her expression. Fear, exhaustion, and desperation all rolled into one. "I need your help," she said, her voice trembling. Her accent was unfamiliar, but her words were clear enough. She held out a small container, its surface frosted over and emitting wisps of cold vapor. Inside, Alex could see 3 tiny shapes, curled up and motionless. "What is this?" Alex asked, taking the container carefully. It was heavier than expected, and the chill seeped through the gloves. Looking closer, Alex realized the shapes were creatures. Small dragon-like beings, each no bigger than a hand. They had delicate wings folded tightly against their bodies, and their scales sparkled faintly despite being encased in ice. "They are my children," the woman whispered, tears welling up in her glowing eyes. "They are dying, and I don't know how to save them." Alex stared at her, unsure whether to believe what was happening. This wasn't part of the mission briefing. Aliens weren't supposed to exist, at least, not here, not now. And yet there was no denying the reality standing right in front of Alex. The woman looked broken, her posture slumped, her hands trembling as she clutched the edges of her robe. "My name is Lyra," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. We were guardians, protectors of balance. My people are gone, hunted to extinction. These are the last of us. If they die, everything we stood for dies with them." Alex hesitated, torn between curiosity and caution. Helping an alien, even one carrying what appeared to be her offspring, wasn't exactly protocol. What if she was dangerous? What if bringing her inside put the entire crew at risk? But something about Lyra's plea struck a chord. There was honesty in her gaze, a raw vulnerability that made it impossible to turn her away. "Okay," Alex said finally, setting the container down on the nearest table. "Tell me everything, who you are, where you came from, and why you're here, and then we'll figure out what to do next." Lyra nodded gratefully, sinking into a nearby chair. She began to speak, her voice soft but steady. She told Alex about her people, the Drakari, who had once roamed the stars as peacemakers. They were revered for their wisdom and feared for their power, capable of shaping worlds with their presence alone. But jealousy and fear led to betrayal. Other species, envious of the Drakari's abilities, turned against them, hunting them relentlessly until only a handful remained. When the end came, I fled, Lyra admitted, her voice breaking. I took the eggs, the last hope of my kind, and hid them where no one would find them. But when they hatched, I realized I couldn't care for them properly. Their bodies require specific conditions to survive, conditions I can't create on my own. I've searched for help across countless worlds, but no one would listen. Until now. She paused, looking directly at Alex. You're different, I can feel it. You still have compassion even for someone like me. Please don't let them die. Alex listened intently, processing the weight of Lyra's story. The implications were staggering. If what she said was true, then these tiny creatures weren't just babies. They were the key to reviving an entire species. But reviving them wouldn't be easy. The technology needed to thaw and stabilize their fragile forms might not even exist within the station's limited resources. Still, Alex couldn't ignore the urgency in Lyra's voice, or the flicker of hope that stirred deep inside. Maybe this was why the mission had brought them to Europa. Maybe it wasn't just about studying energy signals or unlocking the mysteries of the subsurface ocean. Maybe it was about something far greater. All right, Alex said after a moment of silence. We'll try, but you have to understand, it won't be simple. We'll need to run tests, use equipment that wasn't designed for this kind of work, and we'll have to keep this quiet, if the others find out. Alex trailed off, glancing toward the sleeping quarters where the rest of the crew lay unaware. Lyra nodded solemnly. I understand. Thank you for giving us a chance. With that, Alex set to work, gathering tools and preparing the lab. Lyra stayed close, watching every move with a mixture of anxiety and gratitude. Together, they spent the rest of the night examining the frozen dragon babies, searching for any sign of life beneath the ice. As the hours passed, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this moment marked the beginning of something extraordinary, something that would change not only their lives but perhaps the fate of the universe itself. Outside, the winds howled across Europa's barren landscape, oblivious to the drama unfolding within the station. Inside, two unlikely allies worked side by side, united by a shared determination to defy the odds and bring new life into a cold, unforgiving world. The next morning, the station was quiet. The rest of the crew had no idea what had happened the night before. Alex moved cautiously through the halls, trying to act normal while carrying the weight of Lyra's secret. It wasn't easy. Every sound, the clinking of a coffee mug, the beep of a monitor, felt louder than usual. The dragon babies were still in the lab, their frozen forms resting inside a makeshift containment unit. Lyra stayed close, watching over them like a guardian. Alex knew they couldn't keep this hidden forever. The station was small, and secrets had a way of unraveling quickly. But for now, the priority was figuring out how to help the dragon babies. Reviving them would require more than just thawing them out. Their biology was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The glowing scales, the faint hum of energy emanating from their bodies, it all hinted at something far beyond human understanding. In the lab, Alex worked tirelessly alongside Lyra. They used microscopes, thermal scanners, and bioelectric sensors to study the creature's physiology. Lyra explained what she could about her people's biology, but much of it was lost knowledge. Her species had been reduced to scattered fragments, their history erased by those who feared them. Despite the challenges, there were moments of hope. One of the dragon babies twitched slightly when exposed to a low-frequency electrical current. Another emitted a soft glow when placed near a heat source. These small signs of life kept Alex going even as doubts crept in. Could they really pull this off? Or were they chasing an impossible dream? As the days passed, tensions began to rise. Emma Hall, one of the station's top scientists, started noticing changes in Alex's behavior. Normally calm and focused, Alex seemed distracted, skipping meals and disappearing into the lab for hours at a time. Emma wasn't the type to let things slide. She approached Alex during a rare break, her arms crossed and her expression stern. "You've been acting weird," Emma said bluntly. What's going on? Nothing, Alex replied, forcing a smile. Just working on some new data. You know how it is. Emma didn't look convinced. You're lying, I can tell. Something's up, and if it affects the mission, I need to know. It doesn't, Alex said quickly, perhaps too quickly. It's nothing important. Emma frowned but didn't press further. At least not right away. Instead, she started paying closer attention to Alex's movements. Late one night, as Alex slipped into the lab again, Emma followed quietly, staying out of sight. She peeked through the partially open door and saw something that made her blood run cold. Lyra was there, standing beside Alex. The alien woman's silver skin caught the light, and the container holding the dragon baby sat on the table between them. Emma's breath caught in her throat. For a moment she thought she was hallucinating. But the scene was real. There was no denying it. Emma backed away slowly, her mind racing. What was Alex doing with an alien? And what were those things? Were they dangerous? Should she report this to Commander Laura Blake immediately? Emma hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. In the end, she decided to wait, gathering more information before making a move. Inside the lab, Alex and Lyra remained unaware of Emma's discovery. They were too focused on their work. Progress was slow, but steady. Using a combination of cryogenic techniques and bioelectric stimulation, they managed to stabilize one of the dragon babies. Its body temperature rose slightly and its wings fluttered weakly. For the first time, Alex allowed themselves to feel a glimmer of optimism. "This is good," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "You're bringing them back?" "We're not done yet," Alex reminded her gently. "There are still 2 more, and we don't know if this one will fully recover." But Lyra couldn't help smiling. It was the first real smile Alex had seen from her since she arrived. Beneath the layers of despair, Lyra was kind and resilient. Someone who had endured unimaginable loss yet still held on to hope. Alex found themselves admiring her strength, even as the pressure mounted. The breakthrough came at a cost, though. Running the experiments drained significant resources from the station. Power levels dipped dangerously low, triggering alarms throughout the facility. When Emma heard the warning sirens, she put 2 and 2 together. She stormed into the lab, her face flushed with anger. "What are you doing in here?" she demanded, her eyes narrowing as she took in the scene. "And what is that?" She pointed at the dragon baby, which lay motionless on the table. Its tiny chest rose and fell faintly, a sign of life struggling to emerge. Lyra stepped forward protectively, placing herself between Emma and the creature. "It's none of your business," Alex said firmly, stepping in front of Lyra. "Leave us alone." "Oh, really?" Emma shot back, crossing her arms. "Because it looks like you're wasting station resources on whatever this is. Do you have any idea how much power you've used? We're supposed to be conserving energy, not playing mad scientist." "It's not a game," Alex snapped, losing patience. "This is important." "Important? Important to who? To you? To her?" Emma gestured at Lyra, her tone sharp. "Who even are you? Are you even human?" "She's helping me," Alex said, trying to stay calm. "That's all you need to know." Emma shook her head, incredulous. "Helping you do what? Bring those things back to life? What if they're dangerous? What if they attack us?" "They won't," Lyra interjected softly, her voice calm but firm. "They are peaceful. They are my children. I would never harm anyone." Emma stared at her, clearly unsettled. "This is insane. I'm telling Commander Blake." Before Alex could stop her, Emma turned and hurried out of the lab. Panic set in as Alex realized what this meant. If Emma told the commander, the entire crew would find out. There would be questions, accusations, maybe even demands to destroy the dragon babies. All their hard work would be undone. "We need to hide them," Alex said urgently, turning to Lyra. "Now." Lyra nodded, her expression grim. Together they carefully packed the dragon babies into a portable containment unit. Alex grabbed a few essential tools and supplies, stuffing them into a bag. They didn't have much time. Once Emma reached the Commander, it would only be a matter of minutes before someone came looking for answers. As they prepared to leave, Alex felt a pang of guilt. Betraying the crew's trust wasn't something they had ever imagined doing. But Lyra's desperation was real, and the stakes were too high to ignore. If they didn't protect the dragon babies, an entire species would vanish forever. Just as they finished packing, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Alex froze, heart pounding. The door creaked open, and Commander Laura Blake stepped inside, flanked by 2 armed guards. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, taking in the empty tables and the hastily cleared equipment. "Where are they?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the silence. Alex swallowed hard, trying to think of a response. Lyra stood silently behind them, her presence both a comfort and a liability. The situation was spiraling out of control, and Alex knew they were running out of options. Laura's gaze locked onto Alex, her expression unreadable. "Whatever you're hiding, you'd better start talking, now." The standoff hung heavy in the air, tension crackling like static electricity. For a moment, it seemed like everything might fall apart. But then, unexpectedly, Ryan Cole, the youngest member of the crew, appeared in the doorway. His wide eyes darted between the commander, Alex, and Lyra. "I know what's going on," Ryan said nervously, stepping forward. "And I want to help." His unexpected intervention gave Alex a sliver of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't completely alone in this fight after all. The room was tense, the air thick with uncertainty. Commander Laura Blake stood firm, her arms crossed and her sharp eyes darting between Alex, Lyra, and Ryan. The 2 armed guards behind her shifted uncomfortably, their weapons at the ready, but not yet raised. Ryan's sudden declaration had thrown everyone off balance, including Alex. "I know what's going on," Ryan repeated, his voice steadier this time. He glanced at Alex briefly before addressing the commander. "And I think we should hear them out." Laura raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "You know? Care to explain how that's possible?" Ryan hesitated for a moment, then stepped further into the lab. His youthful face was flushed, but there was determination in his eyes. "I overheard Emma talking about it earlier. She said something about aliens and experiments. I didn't believe her at first, but when I saw Lyra just now," he gestured toward the silver-skinned woman standing quietly beside Alex. "Well, it's obvious she's not human, but that doesn't mean she's dangerous." Laura frowned, glancing at Lyra. "You expect me to trust an alien based on your word?" "It's not just my word," Ryan replied quickly. "Look, I've always been fascinated by the idea of extraterrestrial life. If we're really dealing with something beyond Earth, shouldn't we at least try to understand it instead of jumping to conclusions?" His argument gave Alex a small opening. "He's right," Alex said, stepping forward cautiously. "Lyra isn't a threat. She came here asking for help. Her children, those dragon-like creatures, are dying. We were trying to save them." "And you thought keeping this a secret was a good idea?" Laura asked, her tone icy. "We didn't know how you'd react," Alex admitted. "We were afraid you'd shut us down or worse, destroy the babies without even trying to help." Laura sighed deeply, rubbing her temples. For a moment, she looked less like a stern commander and more like someone burdened by impossible decisions. Finally, she turned to Lyra. "Is this true? Are you asking for our help?" Lyra nodded slowly, her glowing blue eyes meeting Laura's gaze. "Yes. My people are gone. These babies are all that remain of my kind. Without your help, they will die." Laura studied her for a long moment, then exchanged a glance with the guards. They seemed unsure of what to do next. The situation was unprecedented. Aliens, frozen dragon babies, and a crew divided on how to proceed. Breaking the silence, Laura finally spoke. "All right," she said reluctantly. "Here's what we'll do. You," she pointed at Alex, "and you," her finger shifted to Lyra, "will explain everything, every detail, no secrets. Then we'll decide as a team whether or not to continue. But if anyone feels unsafe at any point, we stop immediately. Understood?" Alex nodded, relief washing over them. Understood. Over the next hour, the entire crew gathered in the station's main lounge. It was cramped, with chairs pulled in from other rooms to accommodate everyone. Lyra stood at the front, flanked by Alex and Ryan. The rest of the crew listened intently, some curious, others visibly uneasy. Emma sat near the back, arms crossed, glaring at Alex. Lyra began speaking, her voice calm and measured. She told them about her people, the Drakari, who had once been guardians of peace across the stars. She described their fall, hunted nearly to extinction by those who feared their power. When she mentioned the dragon babies, her tone softened, filled with both sadness and hope. "These babies are more than just my children," she explained. "They represent renewal, a chance for my people to rise again. But reviving them requires conditions we can't create alone. That's why I came here, for help." When she finished, the room fell silent. Some of the crew members exchanged nervous glances, while others leaned forward, intrigued. Ryan was the first to break the silence. "This is incredible," he said. His voice filled Lang excitement. "We're talking about actual aliens. This could be the most important discovery in human history." Emma rolled her eyes. "Or the most dangerous. How do we know these things aren't a threat? What if reviving them puts us all at risk?" "That's enough," Laura interrupted, raising a hand to quiet the growing murmurs. "Everyone gets Kosei, but let's stay focused. Does anyone else have questions?" A few hands went up and the discussion continued. Questions ranged from technical concerns about the baby's biology to ethical debates about interfering with another species. Through it all, Lyra remained patient, answering each question honestly. Slowly, some of the crew began to warm to her. Her sincerity was hard to ignore, but not everyone was convinced. Emma stood up abruptly, her face flushed with frustration. "This is insane. We're risking our lives and the mission for something that might not even work. What if Earth Command finds out? Do you think they'll approve of this?" "She's right," said one of the engineers, a man named Greg. "We're supposed to follow protocol, not play God." The room erupted into arguments, voices overlapping as tempers flared. Laura tried to restore order, but it was no use. Just as it seemed like the situation would spiral out of control, something unexpected happened. The dragon baby that had shown signs of life earlier suddenly stirred within its containment unit. A faint hum filled the room, low and soothing, resonating deep in everyone's chests. The sound was unlike anything they'd ever heard, gentle yet powerful, calming yet awe-inspiring. One by one, the arguing voices quieted until the room was completely silent. All eyes turned to the tiny creature. Its translucent wings fluttered weakly, and its glowing scales pulsed softly. It opened its iridescent eyes, looking around the room with curiosity rather than hostility. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Then, without warning, the baby let out a soft chirp, almost like a song. The sound sent shivers down everyone's spines. Even Emma, who had been so vocal in her opposition, found herself staring in wonder. "What was that?" Greg whispered, breaking the silence. "It's communicating," Lyra said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's showing us it means no harm." Ryan grinned, unable to contain his excitement. "See? They're peaceful. This proves it." Laura watched the scene unfold, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "All right, listen up. Here's what we're going to do. We'll give this a chance, but only under strict supervision. Alex, you'll lead the effort, and Lyra will assist. Anyone who wants to help can volunteer, but no one is obligated. If at any point this becomes too risky, we pull the plug. Agreed?" There were nods and murmurs of agreement, though some still looked hesitant. Despite the lingering doubts, the mood in the room had shifted. The dragon baby's display of innocence had changed hearts, or at least softened them. Later that evening, Alex and Lyra returned to the lab with a small group of volunteers, including Ryan. Together they resumed their work, buoyed by the newfound support. Progress accelerated with additional hands and fresh ideas. Using advanced imaging tools, they mapped the dragon baby's internal structures, identifying key areas to target during revival. As they worked, Lyra shared more stories about her people, painting a vivid picture of their culture and values. She spoke of their role as mediators in cosmic conflicts, their ability to heal wounds both physical and emotional, and their deep connection to the natural world. Her words painted a stark contrast to the violent end her people had faced. They didn't deserve what happened to them, Ryan said quietly, shaking his head. No one does. No, Lyra agreed, her voice heavy with sorrow. But hatred often blinds those who wield it. My people learned that lesson the hard way. Despite the weight of her past, Lyra seemed lighter now, as if sharing her story had lifted a burden. Alex noticed the change and felt a renewed sense of purpose. Saving the dragon babies wasn't just about preserving a species. It was about honoring the legacy of a people who had sacrificed everything for peace. By the end of the day, they achieved another breakthrough. The second dragon baby began to show signs of life, its tiny heart beating faintly beneath its icy cocoon. Though fragile, the progress was undeniable. As the team celebrated quietly, Lyra placed a gentle hand on Alex's shoulder. "Thank you," she said simply, her glowing eyes filled with gratitude, "for believing in us." Alex smiled, though the road ahead was still uncertain. "We're not done yet, but we're getting closer." Unbeknownst to them, however, challenges loomed on the horizon. Reviving the third baby would prove far more difficult than anyone anticipated, and as tensions simmered among the crew, old fears threatened to resurface. Yet amidst the uncertainty, one thing was clear. The bond between humans and Drakari was growing stronger, forged in the crucible of shared struggle and hope. Outside, the winds of Europa howled against the station's walls, oblivious to the drama unfolding within. Inside, a fragile alliance held together by trust and determination, prepared to face whatever came next. The mood in the station had shifted, but not entirely for the better. While some crew members were eager to help Lyra and her dragon babies, others remained deeply skeptical. Emma Hall led the opposition, her distrust growing with each passing day. She made it clear that she thought the entire situation was reckless and potentially dangerous. Her arguments found support among a small group of crew members, including Greg and another scientist named Clara. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, threatening to boil over at any moment. Despite this, Alex and the volunteers pressed on, determined to revive the third dragon baby. The first two were showing steady improvement, their tiny wings fluttering more strongly and their glowing scales pulsing with life. But the third baby remained unresponsive, its body too damaged by prolonged exposure to extreme cold. No matter what they tried, nothing seemed to work. One evening, as the team gathered in the lab, frustration began to show. Ryan, who had been one of the most enthusiastic supporters, sighed heavily as he stared at the monitors displaying the baby's vitals. "We've tried everything," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Why isn't it responding?" Alex shook their head, equally discouraged. "I don't know. Maybe we're missing something. There has to be a way." Lyra watched silently, her expression a mix of gratitude and despair. She knew how hard everyone was working, but the weight of failure was crushing her spirit. For days she had barely slept, haunted by the fear that her last child would never wake up. Finally, unable to hold back her emotions, she spoke. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This is my fault. If I had been stronger, if I had protected them better, none of this would have happened." "No," Alex said firmly, stepping closer to her. "You did everything you could. You brought them here because you believed in hope. Don't give up now." Ryan nodded in agreement. "Alex is right. We can't stop trying. Not yet." But even as they encouraged Lyra, doubts lingered. What if they couldn't save the third baby? What if their efforts weren't enough? The questions gnawed at all of them, casting a shadow over their progress. The next morning, things took a turn for the worse. Emma stormed into the lab, her face red with anger. Behind her stood Commander Laura Blake, looking stern and unyielding. In Emma's hands was a datapad filled with evidence. Logs, energy usage reports, and surveillance footage she had secretly gathered. "Enough," Emma declared, slamming the datapad onto the table. "I've had it with your little experiment. Look at this." She pointed to the screen which displayed graphs showing the station's dwindling resources. "You're draining power from critical systems to keep these things alive. Do you realize what that means? If we run out, we'll lose communication with Earth. We'll be stranded here." "That won't happen," Alex countered quickly. "We're managing the resources carefully. There's still plenty left." "Plenty?" Emma shot back, incredulous. "You call this careful management? We're weeks away from running dry. And for what? A couple of alien pets?" "They're not pets," Lyra snapped, surprising everyone with the force of her voice. Her glowing eyes burned with intensity. "They are my children, my people, and they deserve a chance to live." Emma sneered, clearly unmoved. Your people are dead. Extinct. Why should we risk our lives for something that doesn't even belong here?" Before anyone could respond, Laura stepped forward, her commanding presence silencing the room. "That's enough," she said sharply. "Both of you. This bickering isn't helping anyone." She turned to Alex, her tone softer but still firm. "I let this go on because I thought it was worth exploring. But Emma raises valid concerns. If we continue down this path, we need guarantees, real ones, that this won't jeopardize the mission or put the crew in danger." "We understand," Alex replied, nodding. "And we'll find a solution. Just give us a little more time." Laura hesitated, then sighed. "Fine. But mark my words, if things don't improve soon, I'll have no choice but to shut this down. Understood?" Everyone nodded reluctantly. As Laura and Emma left the lab, the tension hung heavy in the air. The threat of shutdown loomed over them like a storm cloud, darkening their resolve. Later that night, the team regrouped to brainstorm new ideas. Ryan suggested using a combination of thermal resonance and bioelectric pulses, hoping to stimulate the third baby's dormant cells. It was a risky approach, but they were running out of options. With Lyra's guidance, they adjusted the equipment and prepared for another attempt. As they worked, Lyra shared more about her people's connection to energy. "My kind draws strength from harmony," she explained. "Not just physical balance, but emotional and spiritual as well. Perhaps that's what's missing. Maybe the baby needs more than just technology. It needs belief." Her words sparked an idea in Alex's mind. "What if we focus on creating a calm environment, something peaceful like music or sound waves?" Ryan lit up at the suggestion. "Yes, low-frequency vibrations might help. Let's try." They set up speakers around the containment unit and played soft rhythmic tones. At first there was no reaction, but after several minutes the baby's scales began to glow faintly. Its chest rose and fell slightly, a sign of life stirring within. "It's working," Ryan exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. But just as hope began to rise, alarms blared throughout the station. The lights flickered and the hum of machinery grew louder. Someone shouted from the hallway, "Power surge in Sector 3! Panic spread quickly. The team rushed to stabilize the equipment, but the damage was done. The sudden spike overloaded the system, causing the containment unit to malfunction. Sparks flew, and smoke filled the air. When the chaos finally subsided, the team gathered, around the unit, hearts pounding. To their relief, the third baby was still intact, but it hadn't fully revived. Its condition remained precarious, teetering between life and death. The setback was devastating, and the crew's morale plummeted. The following day, tensions reached a breaking point. Emma called for an emergency meeting, demanding immediate action. "This has gone on long enough," she told the assembled crew. "We need to make a decision. Either we destroy those creatures before they drain us completely, or we abandon this ridiculous project altogether." Her words ignited a heated debate. Some sided with Emma, arguing that survival should come first. Others, inspired by Ryan's passion, defended the effort to save the dragon babies. Voices rose, tempers flared, and the room descended into chaos. In the midst of the argument, Lyra stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Though visibly exhausted, she spoke with quiet dignity. "Please," she began, her voice carrying, despite the noise. "Hear me out." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. She took a deep breath, then continued. "I know many of you fear what you don't understand, and I know some of you question why we're doing this, but I ask you to think beyond yourselves, beyond humanity. These babies are more than just my children. They are symbols of hope, of renewal. If they survive, they can bring balance, not just to my people, but to yours as well." Her words resonated deeply, especially with Ryan and a few others who had grown close to Lyra. Even Commander Laura seemed moved, her expression softening slightly. But Emma remained unconvinced, shaking her head in disbelief. "This is nonsense," she muttered under her breath. Before anyone could respond, a low hum filled the room, the same soothing sound that had calmed the crew during the earlier confrontation. Everyone turned to see the first two dragon babies perched on the edge of their containment units, their tiny wings spread wide. They chirped softly, their iridescent eyes glowing warmly. For a moment, the tension melted away. Even Emma looked, startled, her usual skepticism faltering. It was as if the babies were reaching out, offering peace instead of conflict. Ryan broke the silence, his voice filled with awe. "They're telling us something. They're saying they're not a threat." Laura studied the scene carefully, weighing her options. Finally, she spoke. "All right, here's the deal. We'll give this one last chance. But if the third baby doesn't revive by tomorrow, we end this. No arguments." The decision was met with mixed reactions, but the crew agreed to abide by it. As the meeting dispersed, Alex and the team returned to the lab, determined to make one final push. With time running out, they poured every ounce of effort into reviving the third baby, knowing that failure wasn't an option. Outside, the icy winds of Europa howled relentlessly, indifferent to the drama unfolding within the station. Inside, hope and desperation clashed, each vying for dominance. Yet amidst the uncertainty, a fragile thread of unity held fast, a shared belief that sometimes, against all odds, miracles could happen. The final hours ticked by with a weight that pressed heavily on everyone in the station. The deadline set by Commander Laura Blake loomed like a shadow over the lab. Alex and the team worked tirelessly, their movements fueled by desperation and determination. Lyra stayed close, her silver skin catching the dim light as she watched over the third dragon baby. Her glowing eyes were filled with a mix of hope and dread, as though she was bracing herself for the worst. Ryan was the heart of the operation, his youthful enthusiasm keeping the group going even when fatigue threatened to overwhelm them. He suggested combining every technique they had tried so far: thermal resonance, bioelectric pulses, and low-frequency sound waves, all at once. It was risky, but with time running out, they had no choice but to try. "This might be our last shot," Ryan said, adjusting the equipment. "Let's give it everything we've got." Alex nodded, their hands steady despite the pressure. "All right, let's do it." As they prepared the setup, the first two dragon babies chirped softly from their containment units. Their tiny wings fluttered gently as if they were cheering on the effort. Lyra smiled faintly, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're rooting for us." The team activated the system, flooding the containment unit with a symphony of energy and sound. The hum resonated through the room, vibrating in their chests. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. The third baby remained still, its fragile form encased in ice. Just as frustration began to creep in, a faint glow emerged from beneath its scales. The light grew brighter, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. "It's working!" Ryan exclaimed, his voice trembling with excitement. "Look!" Everyone gathered around the containment unit, watching in awe as the ice began to melt away. The baby's wings unfurled slowly, and its chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. Its iridescent eyes opened, revealing a soft, shimmering blue that mirrored Lyra's own. Lyra gasped, tears streaming down her face. She reached out hesitantly, her hand hovering above the baby. "It's alive," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "You did it." But the celebration was short-lived. The power surge caused by the intense energy output triggered alarms throughout the station. Lights flickered and monitors displayed warnings about critical system failures. Emma stormed into the lab, her face flushed with anger. "What have you done?" she demanded, pointing at the chaos around them. "You've pushed the systems too far. We're losing power across the entire station." Alex turned to her, guilt written all over their face. "We didn't mean to. We were just trying to save the baby." "Well, congratulations," Emma snapped. "You might have killed us all instead." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. The hum of machinery grew louder, followed by a loud crackling noise. Sparks flew from one of the control panels, forcing everyone to step back. The situation was spiraling out of control. Commander Laura Blake arrived moments later, her expression grim. "What's going on here?" she asked, surveying the damage. "The systems are failing," Emma replied quickly, her tone accusatory. "Thanks to them." Laura glanced at Alex, then at the dragon babies. "Is it true?" "We saved the third baby," Alex admitted, gesturing toward the now revived creature. "But the process overloaded the equipment." Laura sighed deeply, rubbing her temples. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. We can't keep risking the mission or our lives for this." Before she could say more, the lights dimmed completely, plunging the lab into near darkness. Emergency backup generators kicked in, casting a pale glow over the room. In the silence that followed, a new sound emerged, a low, melodic hum coming from the dragon babies. It started softly, almost imperceptible, but quickly grew stronger, filling the space with a hauntingly beautiful melody. The crew froze, captivated by the sound. It wasn't just music, it was something deeper, a vibration that seemed to resonate within their very souls. Fear and tension melted away, replaced by a profound sense of calm. Even Emma, who had been the most vocal opponent, stood motionless, her expression softened. "What is that?" Greg asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's them," Lyra replied, her eyes shining with pride. "They're communicating, sharing their essence with us." The melody continued, weaving through the air like an invisible thread connecting everyone in the room. It felt like a message, a plea for understanding, for unity. As the song reached its crescendo, something extraordinary happened. The walls of the station shuddered and a deep rumble echoed from outside. "What's going on?" Clara asked nervously, clutching the edge of a table. No one had an answer. They rushed to the nearest window, peering out into the frozen expanse of Europa. To their astonishment, cracks began forming in the thick ice, spreading outward in intricate patterns. From the fissures, glowing tendrils of energy rose into the sky, twisting and intertwining like living vines. The auroras above shimmered intensely, bathing the landscape in hues of blue and green. "It's incredible," Ryan breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. Lyra stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the phenomenon outside. "They've awakened it," she murmured. "The spirit of my ancestors." "Their ancestors?" Alex asked, turning to her. "Yes," Lyra explained. "Long ago, my people bonded with the energy of this moon. When they vanished, their essence remained, dormant beneath the ice. The dragon baby's song has called them back." As she spoke, the tendrils of light converged into a massive shape, a colossal ethereal dragon made entirely of radiance. Its form shimmered and shifted, defying logic and physics. The creature hovered silently, its presence both awe-inspiring and humbling. Then, without warning, it communicated, not with words but directly into their minds. The voice was gentle yet powerful, carrying centuries of wisdom and compassion. "Thank you," it said, its message clear to everyone. "For reviving the last of my kin, you have honored our legacy. You have shown courage and kindness in a universe often devoid of such qualities." The crew stared in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what they were experiencing. The celestial dragon continued, addressing each person individually, acknowledging their doubts, fears, and hopes. When it spoke to Emma, she visibly flinched, her skepticism crumbling under the weight of the being's sincerity. To those who questioned, know that your caution was not misplaced. But remember, fear is only a barrier until it becomes a bridge. Trust in the unknown, for it holds infinite possibilities. Finally, the dragon turned its attention to the 3 dragon babies, enveloping them in a warm golden light. The tiny creatures chirped happily, their bodies glowing brighter than ever before. The 3rd baby, once so fragile, now radiated vitality, its wings strong and its eyes full of life. The celestial dragon lingered for a moment longer, then began to dissolve, its form scattering into countless sparks of light. As it faded, the cracks in the ice sealed themselves, leaving the surface smooth and unbroken. The auroras dimmed, returning to their usual brilliance. When the spectacle ended, the crew stood in stunned silence, processing what they had witnessed. Lyra turned to Alex, her expression a mixture of gratitude and wonder. "You've given us more than life," she said softly. "You've given us a future." Later that evening, the station was quieter than usual. The crew gathered in the lounge, sharing stories and reflecting on the events of the day. Even Emma, who had been so resistant, found herself opening up. She sat beside Ryan, listening intently as he described his fascination with the dragon. "Baby's biology. I still think it's dangerous," she admitted, glancing at him. "But maybe there's room for miracles, too." Ryan grinned. "Miracles are just science we don't understand yet." In another corner of the room, Alex spoke with Commander Laura, explaining the significance of what had happened. While Laura remained cautious. She acknowledged that the experience had changed her perspective. "We'll need to report this to Earth Command eventually," she said. "But for now, let's focus on making sure everyone stays safe. And that includes our guests." Alex nodded, relieved. "Thank you." Outside, the winds of Europa howled softly, carrying whispers of ancient secrets hidden beneath the ice. Inside, the fragile bond between humans and Drakari grew stronger, forged in the crucible of shared struggle and newfound understanding. Though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, the crew faced them with a renewed sense of purpose. And as the dragon babies rested peacefully in their containment units, their tiny forms glowing faintly in the dark, it was clear that something truly incredible had begun, not just for Lyra's people but for humanity as well. The days that followed were unlike any the crew had experienced before. The station buzzed with a new energy, not just from the miraculous events they had witnessed but also from the shift in their relationships with one another, and with Lyra. The divide between those who had supported the dragon babies and those who had opposed them began to blur. Even Emma, who had been the most vocal skeptic, found herself drawn to the tiny creatures. She would often linger near their containment units, watching as their wings fluttered softly or as they chirped faintly in response to her presence. Lyra noticed these small changes and felt a deep sense of gratitude. She spent much of her time teaching the crew about her people, their history, their values, and their connection to the cosmos. Her stories painted a picture of a species that had once thrived as guardians of balance, using their powers not for domination but for harmony. Though her voice carried sadness when she spoke of their downfall, there was also hope, a belief that their legacy could live on through her children. Alex worked closely with Lyra, helping her adapt to life in the human-made environment. They marveled at how quickly the dragon babies were growing, their bodies becoming stronger and more vibrant with each passing day. The celestial dragon's intervention had clearly left its mark. The babies seemed infused with a newfound vitality, their scales shimmering brighter and their movements more fluid. It was as if they were being prepared for something greater. One evening, as Alex and Lyra sat together in the lab, Ryan burst in, his face flushed with excitement. "You won't believe this," he said, holding up a tablet. "I've been analyzing the data from the auroras after the celestial dragon appeared. There's something incredible happening beneath the ice." "What do you mean?" Alex asked, leaning forward. Ryan set the tablet down and pulled up a series of readings. "The energy signatures we've been studying. They're changing. They're not random anymore. They're forming patterns, almost like messages." "Messages?" Lyra echoed, her glowing eyes widening. From my ancestors? It's possible, Ryan replied. Or maybe it's from the dragon itself. Either way, it's clear that reviving the babies has awakened something far bigger than we imagined. The discovery sent ripples through the crew. Commander Laura called another meeting to discuss what this meant for the mission. The mood was different now, less tense, more collaborative. Even Greg and Clara, who had previously sided with Emma, listened intently as Ryan explained his findings. If these energy patterns are indeed messages, Laura said thoughtfully, then we need to figure out what they're trying to tell us. But we also need to consider the risks. Whatever lies beneath the ice could be beyond our understanding or control. We can't ignore it, Ryan argued passionately. This is why we're here. To explore, to learn, to push boundaries. If we walk away now, we'll never know what secrets Europa holds. Emma surprised everyone by nodding in agreement. He's right. As much as I hate to admit it, running away isn't an option. Not after everything we've seen. Laura studied her crew, noting the determination in their eyes. Finally, she nodded. All right. We'll proceed, but cautiously. Alex, you and Lyra will lead the effort to decode the patterns. Everyone else will support as needed. Understood? The team nodded, united by a shared purpose. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly, using every tool at their disposal to analyze the energy signals. Lyra proved invaluable, offering insights into her people's ancient knowledge of energy manipulation. Slowly but surely, fragments of meaning began to emerge. The breakthrough came late one night. Alex and Ryan were hunched over a monitor, poring over complex data streams, while Lyra stood nearby, her hands resting gently on the edge of the table. Suddenly, Ryan pointed at the screen. There! Look at that sequence. It matches the melody the dragon babies sang. Alex leaned closer, their heart racing. You're right. And look at the pattern. It's repeating. It's like instructions. Instructions for what? Lyra asked, stepping closer. I think... Alex hesitated, then continued. I think it's showing us how to communicate back. The realization electrified the room. If they could respond to the messages, they might unlock answers to questions they hadn't even thought to ask. With renewed urgency, the team devised a plan to send a signal using the station's equipment, mimicking the patterns they had decoded. As they prepared the transmission, the dragon babies grew restless, chirping excitedly and flapping their wings. Lyra smiled, stroking their tiny heads. They know what's coming, she said softly. They feel it too. When the moment arrived, the entire crew gathered in the control room, watching as Alex initiated the signal. A low hum filled the air, resonating through the station. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the ground trembled again and the lights flickered. Outside, the auroras flared brightly, casting the icy landscape in vivid colors. And then, it came. The response. A surge of energy erupted from beneath the ice, rising into the sky in a dazzling display. Shapes formed within the light, shifting and swirling like living art. Words, not spoken but felt, echoed in their minds. You have proven yourselves worthy, the voice said, warm and resonant. Ask, and we shall answer. The crew stared in awe, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the moment. After a pause, Alex stepped forward, speaking aloud as though addressing the universe itself. Who are you? They asked. We are the echoes of those who came before, the voice replied. Guardians of balance, stewards of peace. Through your actions, you have rekindled our bond with this world and with yours, Ryan whispered. What happens now? The path ahead is yours to choose, the voice answered. But know this. The dragon babies are more than survivors. They are bridges. Between past and future, between species, between worlds. Nurture them, and they will guide you toward unity. As the message faded, the auroras dimmed, returning to their usual glow. The crew stood in stunned silence, processing what they had heard. Lyra turned to Alex, tears glistening in her eyes. They've given us a gift, she said. A chance to start anew. In the weeks that followed, life aboard the station transformed. The crew worked together seamlessly, their differences forgotten in the face of a shared vision. Under Lyra's guidance, they built a special habitat for the dragon babies, designed to mimic the conditions they would need to thrive. The babies continued to grow rapidly, their playful chirps filling the station with joy. Commander Laura drafted a report to Earth Command, carefully framing the events in a way that emphasized discovery and cooperation rather than risk. She knew the truth would eventually come out, but for now, secrecy allowed them to focus on nurturing the fragile alliance they had forged. Lyra, too, began preparing for the future. She knew her time with the crew was temporary. The dragon babies would soon outgrow the station, and she would need to find a safe place for them to continue their journey. But for now, she cherished every moment, grateful for the humans who had shown her kindness when she had none left to give. On the final night before Lyra planned to leave, the crew gathered in the lounge for a farewell celebration. Food was shared, stories were told, and laughter filled the air. When it was time for Lyra to speak, she stood quietly, her glowing presence commanding attention. "I came here broken," she began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "I thought I had lost everything. But because of you, I found hope again. You gave my children a second chance, and in doing so, you reminded me of what it means to trust, to connect, to believe in something greater than ourselves." She paused, looking around the room. "Your compassion has changed me, and I believe it will change the universe too. Thank you for everything." As she finished, the dragon babies chirped in unison, their wings spreading wide. The crew applauded, some wiping away tears. It was a bittersweet moment, but also one of profound gratitude. The next morning, Lyra and the dragon babies departed, disappearing into the vast expanse of space. The crew watched from the station's windows, waving silently as their silver-scaled forms vanished into the distance. Though they were gone, their impact remained, a reminder that even in the coldest corners of the universe, warmth and connection could bloom. As the winds of Europa howled outside, the crew returned to their work, inspired by the knowledge that they had played a part in something extraordinary. The dragon babies' journey was only beginning, but so was theirs. Together, they had opened a door to infinite possibilities, a testament to the power of courage, compassion, and collaboration. And somewhere, among the stars, the celestial dragon watched over them all, its light guiding the way forward.